top half of the bracket, and we want to see the volleys. And speaking of volley, we're going straight into the head-to-the-head, and we got the Volibear on L&D Migan versus Pentestag on that Master Yi. And man, this matchup is about to be fun to watch. Volibear hopefully on that big ram strategy, and we've seen Master Yi throughout this tournament today, and we know what Master Yi's game plan, so let's just go straight into the deck list and see what we're working with here.
So the biggest thing here with Volibear in particular is that his ability, his legend ability, when you play something mighty, and that is going to be something with 5 or more might, then you are able to channel a rune exhausted. So if you have a lot of things that have, you know, recycling, cool, that's fine. It's not nearly as big of a hit, and Carnivorous Snapvine is in this deck list, and that can be absolutely devastating for Master Yi.
And here we see Volley opting actually to go a little bit of a different game plan, running the Aurora on the sideboard, and he's running a card that we don't really see too often in the Captain Ferris. Being able to give all your units assault is very strong, and now we see Caddy also coming in as well. Cadrigan saying basically anytime something is mighty, on play you get to draw a card for that, so very, very strong here. And seeing just a lot of units that we're not used to seeing, but you do see he has the Sabotage in the sideboard. And then going over to the Yi pretty much doing the same tried and true strategy, just looking to develop the early game plan, and no big surprises here from this Master Yi player.
Now, at the same time, though, something that is a little bit surprising here that I want to point out real quick is Unyielding Spirit, a card that we normally see on the side deck, is actually on the main deck. And now that will, rightly so, prevent any and all spell and ability damage this turn, and that's going to be a big thing with Carnivorous Snapvine or the other units that might be able to deal some big damage like Dead Bloom Predator. So it's going to be interesting to see what's going to be happening as these two champions face off against each other in a thrilling match for the final round of possibly breaking into the top cut.
And SK, something we didn't talk about here is while we were looking at those deck lists, I actually managed to get a peek of one of the battlefields that Master Yi has on his side, and he is actually running the Vilema's Lair, which is an insane card. So for you guys at home, if you guys don't know what that does, it says units cannot move from here to base. So basically locking in bodies, and you're going to see how Master Yi probably uses that with ganking to get some good benefits. But here, these battlefields, we've seen the battlefield on the left so far, being able to draw one card there, and now we've seen for the first time today, I believe, the Aspirant's Climb. And this battlefield says to win the game, instead of going to 8, you have to score 1 more. So we're going to be locked in for a little bit of a later game here for sure.
And that's going to be the biggest thing. And Volibear, of course, is the person who put down that battlefield, and rightfully so. You do not want to have to be overrun by the victors, overrun by, you know, the Master Yis. You want to try to get the game going into the later game, because the more, you know, units you are able to get out onto the battlefield, it can be absolutely devastating to try to catch up. You have a Volibear that is a 9 might, which can be hard to go against. And in this case, we see Master Yi going into the first battlefield and trying to get some early points before Volibear can just take the ground running and really shut down Master Yi here.
And a card that we touched on briefly, but I would like if production can highlight it for us, is this Captain Ferris here on board. 5 might unit. Basically, all your other cards have Assault, which is really, really strong, especially going into this Yi matchup where Yi is able to buff something by 2, saying all my units now have Assault, just very, very strong as well.
Yep, and with that too, not to take away from that at all, but Sabotage has indeed been played, and what that has gone in and done is taken out a Defy in that, or maybe was the Defy used in that case or discarded?
Yep,
but still, it looks like both are moved.
MF coming down, my apologies there. MF coming down, this MF also has Assault as well. Just going to rush down with on this Poro here. This poor Poro has nothing to defend with. And man, that is looking to be a lot of damage going on to this battlefield here. And SK, man, I want to say Volibear is doing really well here in this early game. Usually, when Volibear players are doing their thing, they don't really have that much of an early game. But now you're seeing how using this Captain Ferris just being able to cap these early battlefields.
And that's going to be the big thing too, is how can Volibear make its impact early on in the game so that it doesn't get too far behind. Yes, Volibear is good at playing the catch-up game, but you don't want it to be a mountain. You want it to be a hill of a climb instead. And so rightfully so, then on top of that, being able to go in and take out that dreaming tree early on. Yes, you are losing a misfortune in this case, but still, you are now 1-1. You have a unit in a battlefield, and you're able to make an impact, especially now that next turn you're going to be at 7 might, which can be a very big difference maker.
And here we see favorite card of the day, Pookie coming down, raise the Pookie counters. Pookie coming down, buffing that Poro, so that Poro is going to be huge when it comes next turn, being able to go on to that Aspirant's Climb and just holding that battlefield there. So Volibear going up to 2 here, so this is a little bit weird to see Volibear in the lead in the early game here, just holding that with that Captain Ferris. And now, what do you do as Volibear here? Not sure what options here Volibear has. So if you don't mind, SK, let's take a look at those hands and seeing what Volibear actually has access to. And here we're seeing the Brazen Buccaneer having, and very, very rough hand here, not to say the least. The Darius and the Captives there. So maybe looking to just establish a Darius on board, or maybe looking to establish a Brazen Buccaneer. And then on the side of he has the double on guard, the Unyielding Spirit, and that Kiana in hand as well.
Yeah, and that's going to be a big thing here, especially with, you might feel like you're at a little bit of a disadvantage, especially with like a Brazen Buccaneer, where as you play me, you may discard a card as an additional cost, and if you do, reduce my cost by 2. And so you'll still be able to get the ramp of Volibear in that case by getting him out onto the battlefield and get some things moving, but still, you don't necessarily have those big leaders to go ahead and take the board, especially if Snapvine is in Master Yi's hand. Mm-hmm. Which luckily at this point, not necessarily. So, but a lot can change turn.
All right, so we see the 4 here tapped for the Kiana to get that Kiana on board. Looking to set up for a battlefield take next turn, it looks like, but that is 10 on the side of Volley. And that's the one downside to Master Yi. Master Yi on defense, chef's kiss. Unless you have the primal strength, it's very rough to take these big battlefields with your units, just because you don't have the straight raw damage to be able to go over these big hurdles. And that's 10 right out the jump. So it's very, very tricky to deal with this board state right now. And Volibear is sitting comfy at 3 points right now, so maybe looking into maybe even dropping a Darius, maybe trying to see if a Darius play can come online here. He does have enough runes to do such a thing, but definitely we'll see how Volibear looks to traverse this battlefield.
Yeah, and that's going to be the difficult part here for Master Yi. You're exactly right about that. And I mean, the Volibear is doing exactly what he needs to do in reinforcing the battlefield that he has under control. It's going to get harder and harder the later the game gets, and holy, he is incredibly reinforcing that battlefield, making sure there is no way that he can take that back. Because I was going to be even suggesting, it's like maybe if you had a charm in hand, you could at least move one of the units away, have enough to then go ahead and move in. But in this case, it looks like Volibear's like, I am all in on this battlefield. I am going to keep climbing points up. Perfectly fine, not a big deal, because if you're climbing points, I'm climbing points, and I'm only going to get better as the game continues to progress.
Yeah, Volibear just saying, hey man, I respect your game plan. You got it. You can hold that Aspirant's Climb. But you see this Grove Willow, you ain't taking this from me. This is my battlefield. You have to have everything and more to deal with this. And because he is up on points technically right now, he can just do that and be comfy with it, because he's going to reach the end game of 9 points before the Master Yi player.
Well, and here's the big thing, too, to consider as well. Grove of the God Willow is an incredibly powerful battlefield to hold, because when you hold here, you draw 1. And Volibear, the last thing you want if you're a Master Yi player is to see him with more card draw in hand, because if he has something, just absolutely devastating, a challenge in hand, or even something insane like Dead Bloom Predator to go ahead and be played onto a battlefield and taking out some very devastating stuff, it's like you're just giving him more and more utility every turn that he holds that battlefield. Great move from the Volibear there on holding that, and it's going to pay dividends here as they continue to draw more and more cards every single turn.
Yep, that is for sure. And now Volibear is in an interesting position. You have the Grove Willow held down. Like, do you want to try to make a push here to see if you can get the other location, forcing the Master Yi player to respond in retort to try to capture? Like, what is your game plan here? What do you have to establish on board? We do know he has the Darius in hand as well, so he could look to set up Darius here just to have it on board, maybe follow it up with something else. And man, don't forget, this is 3 Captain Ferrises on board. So basically, this is like saying, hey, Volibear is now just playing a cleave. So no, he's not even going to do all of that. He's just going to say, hey, man, I'm just going to stack up even more, bro.
No, you're exactly right. And that's the thing, too. It's like, how are you going to get that battlefield back? And with Master Yi, it's like there's not necessarily a whole lot that you can do. It's like Snapvi might be able to take one out. Primal Strength would be able to buff +7, which could help a little bit, but you're still left with 4 at the battlefield. Master Yi's coming in, that's going to be a huge help with being at 6, but still, right now, even with that, looking at the board state, it's a very difficult situation to try to figure out how to even get back into this game, because Volibear just continuing to hold that battlefield is going to make it more and more difficult to get closer to winning the game for the Master Yi.
And I hate to talk about it, but we are in the range of double primal strength. So maybe we just go say, hey, +8 to the board, look to see if we can clear some stuff out. But man, this board state right now from Volibear is actually insane. Having the Vi in the back there as well is very, very scary, because if you guys don't know what Vi does, she can recycle any amount of cards from the trash back to the bottom of the deck and get +1 might for each one that she does, which is very, very strong. And it's not a once per turn. You can do it as many times as you would like. And if you have ways to buff it, for example, it becomes pretty strong. We do see Volibear has access to challenge as well. So that can be another route. Make it big and then challenge something and then get that big thing off the board without actually having to go to combat. Definitely many ways you can utilize that Vi. And even if you go in with that Vi, Assault +3 is just super, super strong as well.
And this is going to be an interesting play as well. Going ahead and moving the Master Yi into the battlefield, that's going to be a little bit more insurance there, trying to make sure that you can hold it with Master Yi's ability, and then just going for a Pack-a-Cub. Now, the thing to keep in mind here is there is a lot of readied runes for Master Yi here, but still, with that being said, it looks like Sabotage has been played, and we get to see the hand, and he can pick any non-unit and discard it.
And when you see a hand like this, it's kind of unfortunate, because it's like it's a kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, because there's going to be a buff there, and there's plenty of runes on the side of the Master Yi player. But like Discipline is probably going to be the one you want to grab out here, because it does have that card draw stapled onto it as well. So you don't want to give your opponent any form of card draw here, taking as many resources as possible. And that's what makes Sabotage such a good card, because it's just like any problematic card that you see in their hand, just gone. And not only that, because this Vi is also on the board as well, that's one more card you can recycle with Vi to potentially push a location as well.
Yeah, and you're exactly right about that. And I mean, Master Yi had 5 cards in hand at the time that Sabotage was played. So even being able to know, hey, out of those 5 cards, this is what my opponent has. And even with that, if I go ahead then and, discard one, that's one less threat for me to have to worry about. And then on top of that, going ahead and responding with a Darius, being able to then have him come in, be at 7 as well with that. And you could go ahead and buff up Vi, and it looks like that's exactly what's going to be happening here, and moving on to the battlefield to challenge Master Yi.
Yeah, and this push here is going to be also huge, because Darius, like we mentioned earlier, he does see himself, so he will be getting +2. also on top of it, there was a bunch of recycles from Vi. I'm not sure how many recycles. We'll just have to check with that to see how big this Vi is going on. But let's not even talk about that. We have Assault 3 at minimum because of the Captain Ferris's as well. So this is going to be a big push onto this location here. Unfortunately, Darius is getting on the chopping block, and Vi is able to conquer here, going up to 6 on the side of Volibear. And this is very, very nice to see. Just Volley playing this very aggressive assault package here. And man, this is what we call making the best of what you got, because initially when I saw this hand, I was like, this hand's bricked. There's no way he can come out of this. But man, just being able to play it well and just saying, hey, man, I have everything and more. And here we see the big Drago coming down, and that looks like it was a caddy that was played as well. So caddy also being able to say, hey, man, I'm getting a bunch of cards off of this for sure.
Yeah, exactly right. And so that's going to be the difficult thing. And, you know, being 4-6 right now, Battlefield's looking scary. It's like, man, what is the Master Yi going to maybe potentially try to do in the sideboard to try to get back into this game? That is such a difficult state, and they're going to be attacking in, trying to maybe get some things cleared out, maybe have some answers in hand. But even still, it's going to be such a difficult thing. The on guard onto the Kiana is going to be a really great play right there. But already another response coming out.
Ooh, and that's the Sky Splitter. So the Sky Splitter, if you guys don't know what this does, and I'll let you know as well, SK, is it gets reduced for the greatest might on the board that you control, and it deals that much damage to a unit. So it looks like they're trying to get some damage onto that Kiana to clear it, but we see the unyielding spirit coming out from the Master Yi player, just saying, hey man, I see your Sky Splitter, but no damage for me this turn.
Yeah, but I mean, great play right there. That's going to keep the game going a little bit longer. And remember, the game does not end at 8. It ends at 9. So we have even 2 more points still that the Volibear needs. But even with that being said, currently right now, with the hands, oh my gosh, look at that hand for the Volibear. That is absolutely scary, especially with the runes to support it.
Yeah, this Volibear has a lot. We did see a lot of card draw there. That caddy put in work when it came down, able to draw so many cards, just because he's been playing this whole game plan, just having those units stay on board. And Master Yi doesn't really have a way to deal with these big bodies. And this is where the runaway game is going to happen. So we did see the Carnivorous Snapvine there. We saw the Deadbloom Predator in hand as well. A lot of tools and have access to for the Volibear players. So Volibear has his way basically on saying, hey man, I can deal with your board in any which way I want. If I want to Snapvine it, I Snapvine it. If I want a Deadbloom, I can Deadbloom. Honestly, I wouldn't want a Deadbloom here just because of the Yi ability going up to 6, and if any shenanigans happen, I would probably go maybe for a Snapvine. But hey man, what am I? I'm just a commentator. He's the player. He says I don't care anymore, and I'm just going to drop that Deadbloom anyways.
Yeah, that's going to be just a little bit more of a sting in that case, you know, and especially the biggest thing too, it's like, even if I lose a Deadbloom here in this case, I have a lot more answers, whereas you might not necessarily be able to have the card draw mastery. You might not be able to refill the hand. So I'm going to start utilizing a lot of my board state, a lot of my cards in hand, so that I'm able to then make sure that you don't have the answer. So when I do make my push, I can get the answers.
Yep, and we still have one more point to go, and honestly, it's very interesting because honestly, there's not much that we can do on that side there. So yeah, right there, that Volibear playing that really well, game 1, and Volibear just showing how strong he can be, especially into these E matchups. We weren't expecting to see Volley here. Everybody in chat earlier today was basically saying, hey man, if we can see Volibear, that would be nice. But Volley and Joy has rise up. It has looking what is like a good matchup into this Master Yi deck.
Well, and that's going to be the biggest thing too here in the deck list. And the thing that helped out the Volibear in this case was that it was able to make a presence early on into the game. And not only that, it was able to go ahead and maintain that control. The card draw from that battlefield made such a difference. Now, when it comes down into the sighting, it's like, do you go ahead and play the Auroras? Now, for those of you who don't know what Aurora does, at the end of your turn, reveal cards from the top of your deck until you reveal a unit. Play it ignoring the cost and recycle the rest, which means you could get a free big unit out onto the field to really make a difference here.
And let's talk about the card that actually put in a lot of work in that matchup, being Captain Ferris. Just being able to give that Assault 3 and just stay on the battlefields at 5 might was really, really strong in that matchup. But let's take a look into the Yi deck list and see what Yi can bring to the table into the sideboard here. So one card that they definitely can bring in is maybe this Sabotage here. This Sabotage would do really well at being able to pull some pesky pieces, maybe a Sabotage of their own. But because Volibear is also a deck that relies a lot on units, this Sabotage doesn't do as well. So
well, and at the same time, you might be wanting to look in at maybe cycling in Block on your side deck. Now, this is an interesting card because you can hide it as well, and you give a unit shield +3, or you give it shield 3 and tank. And so it has to take damage as a unit, which doesn't make a big difference for, you know, Master Yi in this case, but the shield 3 can be a big difference maker, especially as a 2 cost.
Yep, especially with the ability as well, being able to say, hey, my thing is now +5 with that shield 3 is just really, really good here. And as for Battlefields is going to be interesting as well, because we do see that we did mention it, the Vile Mausoleum there in the bottom could come in here as well, but it really depends on what this Master Yi wants to do into this next match here. It's going to be very difficult uphill battle for Master Yi, but don't count him out just yet.
No, not at all. And I mean, the biggest thing too is now he very well could be going ahead and opting to go first, get something out early onto the board, and let's just race. You don't have to worry about now the battlefield that causes you to have an extra victory point. So as we go now into game 2, it's going to be really interesting to see what Master Yi can do to be able to respond.
Yeah, I think the best case scenario here for Master Yi is just establishing that early game pressure, just saying, hey man, I just want to go, I'm going to run you down, right? I don't have to worry about Aspirant's Climb anymore, but we do see Volley here with that battlefield, and that battlefield there, the Obelisk of Power, just being able to start the game with 1 extra is just super, super strong. And you never want to see that across the table, especially, and Volibear just saying, hey man, I'm going to ramp like no tomorrow. So here we see the Mobilize basically getting to ramp 1, and then if you can't ramp, you get to draw a card. So Volibear is all on the ramp train, baby.
Yep, and one thing that I do want to keep in mind as well is Sigil of the Storm, which we're seeing Master Yi take that over right now. That's going to be interesting because when you conquer here, you recycle one of your runes. And so that can really slow down Master Yi that already has a decent amount of cards that needs to be recycled as is. And then to go ahead and then on top of that need to pay an extra one every time you conquer this battlefield. It's like, I don't want to have to conquer that a lot. Let's just hope that this one unit here can go ahead and hold that, so I only have to recycle that one.
It's funny to see, actually, from both players playing some unconventional battlefields. That Vile Mausoleum is very funny. I hope we get to see that in action as well, because that's a very unique battlefield. But here, the Sigil of Power, like you mentioned as well, just being able to force your opponent to say, hey man, if you're going to come here, you're going to have to pay some tax here, which is really, really funny, especially against Master Yi that has these high recycle costs and stuff like that, and is looking to constantly recycle. So Volibear here, I want to see what both players are working with here. So if you don't mind, SK, let's get those hands up and let's see what they're working with for this early game here. And we see Volley has actually teched in out of the sideboard the Dazzling Aurora. So basically saying, hey man, I see that you can't just win off spot, so I can play a more slower methodical game plan. So that also raises the question, did he also tech in a few more bodies into it? Just saying, hey man, I can deal with your board, no problem. And then we see on the bottom side, we have Charm, Wielder of Water, Discipline, and the Primal Strength.
And I mean, that's going to be hard. And so a lot of times, if you do have the Auroras in your opening hand, or, you know, as an opening card in this case, you just try to make sure that you try not to recycle too much so that you can hurry and get up to the 9 cost that it is. You have to recycle 2 with that as well. But then once you get that out, man, it can be hard, especially because there's not a lot of gear destruction. And in this case, for Master Yi, there is none. And so the Auroras is going to be able to pump out something, some kind of unit at any time at the end of or not at any time, at the end of a turn, and be able to really start to build up a very dangerous board state. So Master Yi is going to be at a race for his life here as soon as that card is played.
Yeah, and we see Volibear here on 7 runes, so definitely going to be going next turn into that Aurora. And we haven't really talked what Aurora does. We touched on it briefly, but for the folks at home that are a little bit newer, Aurora is a 9 cost double recycle, and says at the end of your turn, you get to play reveal cards off the top of your deck until you hit a unit, and then you get to play that unit for free without paying its cost. So very strong card, especially in tandem with the Snapvines, with the Dead Bloom Predators and other things like that. And here we're going to see the Aurora come down, and Misfortune, unfortunately, but it depends on how you look at it, but Misfortune coming down. So that means Volibear will have a nice little way to restand either itself or something else on the next turn with that MF once it moves for the first time.
And that's going to be the big thing here as well. Yes, it's very unfortunate that Misfortune was hit, with that. But the biggest thing is, too, it's like you at least can get something out onto the board, but still, Master Yi had a good amount of cards in hand, can go ahead and utilize that even further. And so it's like you're hoping that now that I'm at, 10 runes again, hopefully I can go ahead and play something big out to really get control of this board state, because it is going to be scary. And with a Sabotage coming out, you're going to be able to look at your opponent's hand and do just that to see what kind of threats might be there.
Yep, and you see Migan, this is respect from Migan. Migan knowing that Master Yi has all of these runes up, just using the Sabotage, saying, hey man, I need to get rid of something. If you have something bigger, and more than likely what's going to come out here is going to be this Primal Strength, or even like we saw before, we saw the Discipline coming out as well. But me personally, I would take Primal Strength here, just because that +7 is very, very huge.
That's a difference maker right there, because especially right now, in the sense of Volibear, he cannot waste any more time. Your opponent is already at 5 victory points, and to go ahead and slow it down even more with that, it's like, I can't risk that. But still here, now we have another big unit coming in, a Snapvine in this case, and maybe, hopefully, going to try to do some damage to get some units removed.
Yep, but we do know what is on the side of Pentestag here. We do know there is a double Discipline, so he could potentially look to trade here if he wants to go Discipline into Discipline. Also replacing themselves as well, but he's just going to respect it and say, hey man, you got it, I'll let it go. And this MF here can do some work now, because this MF could move to the battlefield. Yes, it would cause a recycle of 2 runes, but however, then that would mean he could potentially activate the Snapvine. He could activate Volley ability. It depends on what he really wants to go with here.
Well, and that's going to be the big thing too as well. And the big reason why taking over battlefields, especially with the Auroras being on the field, is such a big difference maker. Because when you have a battlefield actually taken over, if you hit something with the Auroras, and you will no matter what, you get to reinforce your battlefields just like that. So it's like, yeah, I might have, only a Misfortune on a battlefield, but oh, by the way, here we go with, a Buccaneer being dropped down, or a Scorcher or a Darius even, which can be very scary. And then also on top of that, now having the readied unit because of Misfortune's ability, because she has the ability of the first time I move each turn, you may ready something else that is exhausted, and so able to just go ahead and even try to trade in with the Kiana.
Yep, and we see here the Kiana is just going to end up getting buffed. So no shocker here. And then, oh my days, the Sky Splitter is going to come down and target that Kiana. So he is looking to trade here at the very least with this Kiana. And honestly, not a bad trade. I would take this trade, honestly. Yes, it's not as good because you want it to cap, but hey, it is what it is.
Well, and you're exactly right, because the trade benefits the Volibear. You as a Yi player, you finally get that unit out that can really hold a battlefield, and now you don't have that anymore. The only readied character that you generally have in this deck is Master Yi himself, but just like that, it looks like we're going to be having a block coming out onto the battlefield as well to add Shield 3 on top of that. So is that going to be enough to do the math? And Challenge instead is going to be coming out as well. So they
this
are
is just
using all utility.
yeah, spell for spell, just going for it, just saying, hey man, let's reset the board. And now this actually is more beneficial on the side of Volibear, but look at the Volibear's rune state right now, pretty much having nothing here. And this is fine because Aurora is on board, so he will be getting bodies every turn. But on the side of Yi, he's basically used up all of his stuff defensively. So now we know he has a hand of a bunch of units, but it also matters what he drew on the discipline draws as well. So I wouldn't be surprised here if he just says, hey, I'm just going to flood the board right now.
Well, and that's a big thing, and something that's interesting here as well. Volibear has a lot of high cost units. You only have 3 runes right now. And so it's like, do you then go instead for the Master Yi out onto the board and just hold a battlefield so that you can rack up those final points that you need? Because it is going to be maybe a turn, 2 turns to potentially try to get back in the game. Yes, the Auroras help, but you've seen the Auroras have hit okay options here, not necessarily what you would love to see. You would love to see a Dead Blue Predator, Carrigan the Infernal, things like that. Even a Darius as well would be really good to see in this case. And it's like, let's, we're not quite getting there. Here comes another Sabotage, though, to see your opponent's hand. And yeah, it looks like only one option for the discard here, or for the recycle. Sorry.
And man, the Sabotage has definitely been coming in handy just in all of these body players. Just having that information is always key in these matchups, and having that information and also saying to your opponent, hey man, that big spell that you're holding out for, let's just get rid of that. Recycle that, get rid of it. We don't have to deal with it. Is just super, super huge. And Aurora also just putting in work here as well. So here we're going to see the dragon go into Grove Willow and then just going to pass it over and just going to slam a Darius on top and just deciding whether he wants to put the Darius to the battlefield or he wants to just put it on the side as well.
And that can be a very difficult choice depending on what's going to be happening here. The cards in hand for Master Yi could be very difficult to try to play around, especially with buffed units. And there's a Yi that could be coming out. You have the runes to be able to do so, but not only that, you have an ability to then go ahead and buff them up as well. And so do you go ahead and play that onto a battlefield? Because if you risk that, you very well could be losing 2 very powerful units. And at that point, is it too little too late then?
Yep, so here we see he's just going to drop it to the battlefield. He's going to actually get the 1 off of this, and this is just a nice synergy as well with the Aurora, because you're playing all these 5-might unit bodies. You can just use the leader ability to get 1 rune, so you're never really behind.
And so it's going to be really interesting to see, and it looks like we will have also a round 7 after this, and so there is still 1 more round to make top cut. And so this is going to be a very interesting game. Still, there is a lot at stake here. And so it's going to be interesting to see how you can then continue as Master Yi to try to get those final points needed to be able to secure game 2.
Yep, and winning here is huge because that basically cements your place into that top half of the top cut there. And then if you do lose here, that means you have to win your last round. It all comes down to this. And I know when it comes to these longer tournaments, 7 rounds, for some people, if you're a veteran TCG player, 7 rounds is not that bad. But if you're a newer TCG player, 7 rounds is a lot. And here we see that Watcher, the Wielder of Water, just coming in with that Primal Strength and just being huge because it gets a +2 when it's attacking or defending alone. And then on top of that, coming in with a Primal Strength as well, making it massive to take that battle.
Now, the scary part about that is you're exactly right, but Master Yi is tapped out. And just like that, the dragon is coming in. Now, how is a dragon able to just out of sudden be played? Well, it has Accelerate, so it's able to move in and attack and try to deal the 5 damage. But it looks like just like that, there's too little, too late, not able to get that in. And we are going to be going into game 3 as Pentestag goes ahead and takes game number 2. Absolutely great job from Master Yi right there, being able to hit the ground running maintained some good board control, but more importantly, was able to get a lot of great answers in that mid game. Auroras came out. That is a lot of devastating things that can just flood the battlefield, but instead, Master Yi was able to deal with those and still maintain battlefield control. And so, what are you looking into now going into game number 3 as Master Yi?
I think for Master Yi, it actually worked out pretty well in his favor there. I don't know what he ended up siding if he did. I think it was just he saw everything he needed to see there. Just really, really solid gameplay. And that's what you kind of need on this Master Yi here. The block did end up coming in. Thank you for highlighting it there for me. But that block being able, you did talk about this here, SK, where that block +3 on defense really, really was going to show. And it ended up did showing. And let's talk about Volibear, because Volibear also did some changes as well, and Volibear ended up bringing in that Aurora that we thought was going to be pretty solid, but the Aurora didn't really hit all that well. So definitely going to be interesting to see how we traverse this game 3 here. And I gotta say, man, one thing I'm hyped for in this matchup right now is going to be that Vile Mausoleer. We're going to see that Vile Mausoleer coming down. And the other battlefield that we're going to be seeing here is going to be that Obelisk of Power, the one that I got confused with Sigil of the Storm beforehand. But we'll see here in this game 3. Let's get into it.
Well, and exactly right. Game 3, this is what is all at stake here. Now, the biggest thing with the battlefield, you're exactly right about that. With the Vilema's Lair, players channel 1 additional rune doing their first rune phase. And I mean, that can be a pretty helpful thing to try to get Master Yi to get things out onto the board, to try to get control of the battlefields. But at the same time, I'm wondering if Auroras just happened to maybe slow down Volibear just a little bit too much and gave Master Yi that little extra edge because the gamble just didn't pay off with the units that got added to the battlefield.
Yeah, that is one of the drawbacks of Aurora. Aurora is a very powerful card, but it's a very build around type strategy. You have to know what you're hitting into. We've seen other Aurora deck lists, so for example, Set and stuff like that, they do their shenanigans where they can be like, all right, I'm going to hit into these specific units. Every unit that I hit into is good. Volibear has some really good units with some good on plays, but you have to hit those. And we did see on the deck list there, he is running a higher count of units, so there are some bad hits in there as well. So here we see Volley starting the same way he did last game, where he hit into that turn 1 mobilize.
And then with that as well, you know, we do see in this case a Clockwork Keeper coming out onto the battlefield, 2 units coming out to really hit the ground running, and Clockwork Keeper is going to recycle 1 to then go ahead and be able to draw a card. So keep the hand full and be able to take both battlefields from the get-go.
Yeah, and it's going to be very, very key here to see what Volibear decides to play out here, just because now that the fact that these 2 bodies can take 2 locations, it's going to be, oh, I have to respond to this on the crackback, or I'm going to be down 4 points.
Yep, exactly. And right now, taking a look at the hands as well, the fresh draw for Master Yi, this is what we are currently looking at. Looks like the Deadbloom Predator was sighted in as well, maybe to deal with the dangerous bodies that are on the Volibear side of things, but still, Sky Splitter has put in some good work as well. Master Yi was able to respond to that, but will that be enough to then go ahead and keep control of the game as Master Yi now moves up 2-0?
And here we see tried and true Sabotage coming down, looking to see what is in Master Yi's hand, seeing if he can pull something out here. Master Yi does have 2 up, so here just going to end up using the Discipline, able to draw 1 more card. Going to end up targeting one of these bodies here. It doesn't really matter which one he targets, but he's going to target the one on the Vile Mausoleer, which is the Clock Keeper. So just going to reveal out here. And then ends up getting a draw off the Discipline as well. And it doesn't look like there's any targets on the side of Master Yi. I think those are all units, so nothing comes out of hand.
Yep, and that was a great play right there, because if he chose to not play the Discipline, then the Discipline would have gone ahead and been discarded, and there would have been no card draw game from that. And so very good job right there to go ahead and play that. Great response. And now he's 1 up on that and has a unit to be able to use instead.
Yep. So very, very, just respecting that. Like honestly, that's how you know he's used to this deck list. So he's just gonna reveal there off the stuff and then put it back to hand. It's still hand information, so you know what the follow-up turns could potentially be, what units are there. So that card just puts in so much work. Not only being able to remove something off the board, out of hand, sorry, you can also see what the next couple of turns might be from your opponent as well.
And that's going to be the scary part because the card that was drawn off of Discipline was Carnivorous Snapvine. And so if you go ahead and decide to move that dragon into a battlefield, well, here's Snapvine, it's gone. And that's another point that then will be able to be reconquered with the water. Let me get their correct name on that. The Wielder of Water to be able to move in and get another point. And I mean, already being soon, soon potentially 3, maybe even 4-0 in that case. It's going to be a very scary game for Volibear.
Yep. So it looks like this is a full tap out here. And what is coming down here? This is going to be the Deadbloom Predator coming down onto the battlefield there. Just saying, Poro, go bye-bye, and scoring the first point of the game for himself there. And honestly, not a bad play. That's what you kind of have to do.
Yeah, that was pretty much one of the best case scenarios for him in there as well. Being able to go ahead and take out that battlefield now very well. It could be, that's a good case scenario, and now reinforcing that battlefield as well. And I got to say, the nice thing about Volibear too is he really helps make the sting of recycling your runes that much less, because with the Deadbloom in this case, you have to recycle 2 of your runes, but with Volibear, as soon as you play that unit that is above 5 might, you can just automatically exhaust 1. So it takes the sting out of it a little bit, and that board presence is going to be huge.
For sure. So let's see what the follow-up hits here. A little bit of a decision making here. He could slam this Yi here potentially to just have a body on the board. Vilemal's Lair, I'm wondering what his thought process was with the Vilemal's Lair. Just saying, hey, if someone commits here, they have to commit. They have to stay there. So here we're seeing the Kiki, the Queen coming down, setting up for future turns, and the Clockwork Keeper also coming down as well. So getting 2 bodies out here and just saying, hey, I need my runes for the next turn. I can go into a Master Yi to come onto the board and do more shenanigans next turn.
Yeah, and so this is going to be an interesting board state. I mean, we see Master Yi in this case going ahead and building up his hands or his base size with a lot of units. On top of that, he still has the Deadbloom Predator and the Snapvine. A lot of answers right there. The Sabotage in hand for the Volibear still isn't necessarily going to be doing too much, but still a Carnivorous Snapvine and a Sky Splitter in hand can really start to make an impact on Master Yi's hand or board state.
For sure. So this Snapvine into Sky Splitter combo, we did see it happen a little bit, but unfortunately on the side of the other player, Unyielding Spirit did come and do some work there, but knowing that there's no Unyielding Spirit there, definitely this can shake it up for sure. But will Migan commit to this play here? That's the real key here. If they commit to the play, boom, profit. But they don't know, like us and everybody at home, what's in the side of Pentestag's hand. So let's see what they decide to do here.
Well, the thing that you got to also continue to keep in mind is that Master Yi at the side of the deck is always looming. And at the same time, Pentestag has done a really good job of making sure that he has the runes available to where that's always kind of a looming threat. You got to be prepared for that. Hey, how do I all of a sudden take care of a Master Yi that could be a 6 attacking in? Volibear luckily is able to manage that decently well, but still it's something that you got to continue to keep in mind. And we see that the Volibear is continuing to reinforce a battlefield right now, and it is causing this board state and the score to grow closer and closer.
Yep, so you see here, Migan is adopting that same game 1 game plan here, just saying, hey, I know you can't mass clear a board or a battlefield. I'm just going to stack. But like you mentioned, that Yi on the side of the board beside the legend is still very much a thing. So being able to triple push here, maybe even going in, just looking to take out that battlefield and saying, hey, now I can play that same game plan that you're trying to do here. I'm still one up on you, so you're gonna have to commit some resources to be able to deal with this. But don't forget, Migan also has that Sky Splitter in hand with a Dead Bloom out as well. So definitely some shenanigans to be had here.
Yeah, and rightfully so. This is the scary part, especially for Yi. It's like I have responses generally to hold the field, but I mean when you're playing 8 might, 6 might, even 5 might that can come in accelerated as well. It's like, gosh, trying to even go ahead and maintain this board control can be so difficult. Kiana going ahead and moving in to a battlefield is going to be helpful. You could exhaust a rune, maybe even draw a card, and usually we've been seeing Pentestag going ahead and opting into drawing a card in this case. And so we'll see what is able to continue to be done here. But even still, luckily no Auroras yet. You still have to deal with what's in front of you, but still, this is going to get tougher and tougher as the game continues to develop.
And this is the interesting from Pentestag as well, because he sent that Kiana into Vilemal's lair. That means anything that that Migan puts onto the battlefield looking to go into that Vilemal's lair is not coming back out. So you're either forcing, you're kind of like forcing the hand of Migan to be like, hey, all right, you have to commit something here, or I'm just going to be scoring a free point every turn. So it's a very interesting use of the Vilemal's lair, and I really, really appreciate using these underutilized battlefields to kind of force your opponent into making rough and tough decisions.
Yep, and that's going to be an interesting play right here. It looks like we are going to be having a Snapvine coming out and then Unguard coming into play to go ahead and give it the extra umph it needs to be able to take out the fellow Snapvine and still manage to survive. And so that's going to be a little bit of the damage mitigated here. Still a lot of work to be put on to get back that battlefield, but still is in the game, is able to gain some points in the during their other turns. But still, you got to try to make sure that you can get back that other battlefield to continue to gain points to get closer and closer to winning game number 3.
Yeah, so right now the decision on Volley is, do I commit to this Vilemal's lair? Do I send a sacrificial lamb into Vilemal's lair to try to deal with this here? Because otherwise it's just going to be a slow bleed. Me personally, I would rather even out here, get that point, force them to be like, hey, double cap. But because Pentestag is also on this even curve here, he has many ways where he can actually double cap in a turn, go up to 6, and then force Volley to be in a predicament where they have to double cap back to be able to respond to me. Or even just a single cap, and then they're taken off curve, and then that's how Pentestag can sneak away with this game.
Well, and that's the scary part, because you made a really good point for Yi, but you're also making a really good point because Volibear can do the same exact thing. We saw what the Dead Bloom can do, and it can turn the tide just like that to where it can just go right on that curve and attack a battlefield, mess up where Master Yi might be at, and then just shut him down. And it's just a very fragile state for both players here. And, what cards you're able to utilize and what cards you're able to draw are going to be making a huge difference here. But it looks like we have a Misfortune that is coming on to base and potentially might be able to make an impact, though not just yet, as another Misfortune comes out onto battlefield to reinforce.
Yep, so just saying, hey, I'm just going to play. Like this, game 1, he just realized game 1, he was just like, all right, this is how I'm going to win this matchup. Game 2, he was like, all right, I'm going to try this Aurora, see if the game can be slowed down enough where I can do this Aurora. And then mid between game 2 and 3, it seems like Migan's just like, hey, man, forget all of that. I'm going back to game 1. Let's do that. Let's see what you got. If you have the outs, you have the outs. So that's what you kind of have to do. You have to just recognize and realize that that's your way to win in this matchup. And honestly, Pentestag is playing it really, really well. He's holding up these units. Notice he could have just full committed already, but he's playing a more slower game plan. He's playing methodically. He's waiting for his opportunity to strike, waiting to go in to this obelisk of power to maybe look into getting that second point, going up to that 6 mark, and then just saying, hey, I can either double cap or I can double hold and get the victory.
And that's the thing too, though. Volibear still has Sky Splitter into hand, and so that's going to have the ability to go ahead and deal 5 to a unit at a battlefield, and that can be a big tide swing as well, where you think I can actually take, Velma's lair. In reality, you might just be trading in, and then you'll have not maybe all the units that you need. You might have no units left, and now it's like, well, what do I do as Master Yi? And Volibear's just like, well, I'm going to keep playing units out. I can keep building up my battlefield with scary units. You just used everything to go ahead and try to take care of things. But it looks like a sabotage is going to be coming out to go ahead and see what is in Master Yi's hand in this case. And that could be very telling.
This is a lovely, lovely use of a late game sabotage here. Because sabotage is not only good early game because you can rip out some key pieces, it's also good in the mid game, but the late game sabotage, just to see what your opponent has and what they're trying to play around, and then you just rip that card out of their hand, it's just like, all right, and this is what I'm talking about exactly. Now, this is going to be a very important decision here. What do you take out here? Do you take out the block? Because if you take out the block, that Kiana is not as protected as more. If you take out the Unyielding Spirit, you know that your Sky Splitter is not going to get value. So deciding to take out the block and just saying, hey man, get rid of that now. And here we're going to see Big Volley come down. And this Big Volley is going to do a lot of work as well. And if you guys don't know what the Big Volley does here, it has Deflect. And when it attacks a battlefield, you can choose to split 5 damage, if I'm correct, amongst the units at the battlefield that it is attacking. And because it's a when attacking, it will get priority on attack as well.
And that's the scary part right now, because Master Yi has, yes, he has 4 that he is able to use of his runes. But also, if anything does end up targeting Volibear, you have to recycle 2 to be able to choose him with a spell or ability. Doesn't necessarily apply too much in this case, but still moving a Deadmaw and moving the Misfortune to go ahead and move the Deadmaw in. Great move right there. And now the Volibear is going to be able to reinforce a battlefield as well. And it is 5-5. I don't think a turn could have gone much better for Volibear right there than it just did right now.
Very huge play there, and that's the type of lines we saw. The double Misfortune play here, and we were kind of wondering what the line was here, but man, double Misfortune is just a house of a unit that just says, hey, I can just reactivate whatever and do whatever I please, right? And that's the prime way to use a Misfortune there, and a very, very strong play there, basically tying it up, both players on that odd curve there for points. So it's going to require a lot of work to get that final point for sure. So the Wielder of Water is just going to come in there just to trade with that Misfortune, and then maybe looking here to maybe doing some work onto this Volibear, but that is 9 might that you have to commit to that board there.
And that's the thing. Volibear is going to just be such a tank to try to take down, especially as Master Yi. And they're trying to find ways around it. And don't get me wrong, Mask of Foresight is going to help out a little bit with that, because when a friendly unit attacks or defends alone, it gets +1. But even still, trying to even get up to like that 9 is going to be difficult. It's like, what do you necessarily do if I mean, they're tapped out right now. They brought Master Yi in to hopefully try to just overwhelm in this case, and really that's all you can do. But still, your opponent already is in control of the other side, and if you go ahead and move Misfortune over to the battlefield that you control, then whatever you just now play on your next turn as Volibear can ready up in that case. And so this is a big turn for Master Yi, but also he is sacrificing a lot to be able to get back this battlefield.
Yeah, he's basically saying, hey, I know I don't have the tools to deal with this Volibear, so I'm just going to full commit and you can spread damage as you want, and we'll deal with it later. And you see here, yep, the full sweep here, not going to use any shenanigans, and maybe deciding on if this Kiana should go and conk, and we'll try to do that as well. So should be going up to 6 here.
But no, not necessarily, because they
Sky
play Sky Splitter.
We forgot about Sky Splitter because we were worrying about the unyielding spirit here, and that actually might spell doom for Pentestag here, because now Pentestag has no board, and then is just gonna say, hey, Volley is just gonna say, hey, I have 2 battlefields controlled. You have no unit that can get accelerate here. Maybe you have a Dead Bloom Predator you can play to a battlefield, but it's 7-5 right now. You have to remove both battlefields, and this is looking like game, ladies and gentlemen. But don't count it out just yet. Maybe there's something here we forgot about because we just forgot about the Sky Splitter, but we'll see what happens here.
Well, and I mean, great job there waiting for the Sky Splitter, because he was able to wait until Master Yi was completely tapped out and then was able to go ahead and play it when it counted most. If Kiana was able to go ahead and take that battlefield, that would have been a huge game maker. But it looks like right there as well, block has been put into the discard, but it looks like they are cleaning up as Migan has taken game number 3.
Yep, so Migan doing insanely well. They're playing that really well, and just straight patience paying off there from the side of Migan. Just being able to say, hey, I have this Sky Splitter. Sky Splitter is not going to generate me too much value, but when I need it the most, it will generate me the value that I need. And very well played by both players. And it's not out yet for Pentestag. Pentestag still has 1 more round. As long as he can clutch it up and get this last dub here, he'll be fine going into the next round. And man, what a game, SK. What a game.
No, seriously. And we got a little bit more to go before we go into Top Cut. So guys, stay tuned. There's a lot coming your way, a lot of exciting things to see. And we have 1 more round. So stay tuned.